Welcome to Sleep Lab. The diary inside the rainy forest hut contained one impossible thing. His name was already written in it. Rain fell softly over the forbidden forest. The sound was gentle, relaxing, almost hypnotic. Deep inside the forest, tall trees swayed slowly in the wind while fog drifted between their trunks. Few people ever entered this place, and those who did rarely returned with the same stories. On a cold autumn evening, a traveler named Ethan walked alone through the forest trail. His backpack was soaked. His flashlight flickered, and the rain showed no signs of stopping. Ethan had been hiking all day when he realized he had taken a wrong path. Now darkness was falling. The forest seemed endless. Every direction looked the same. Trees, fog, rain, silence. As night approached, Ethan noticed something strange through the mist. A small light, far away between the trees, warm and golden. He rubbed his eyes. The light remained. Curious, he followed it step by step. Through mud, through rain, through the whispering forest, until he finally reached it. Standing before him was a small wooden hut. Old, weathered, covered in moss. A faint lantern glowed beside the door. The hut looked ancient, as if it had stood there for hundreds of years. Yet strangely, it looked well maintained, almost as if someone still lived there. Ethan knocked gently. No answer. He waited. Only rain replied. Knock, knock, knock. Still nothing. The door slowly creaked open by itself. Inside was a single room. A fireplace burned softly. A wooden chair sat beside it. A small table stood near the window. And hanging on the wall was an old clock. Tick, tick, tick. The hut felt warm, comfortable, safe, like it had been waiting for him. Ethan stepped inside and closed the door. The rain continued outside, but here, everything felt peaceful. He dried his clothes near the fire, made himself comfortable, and soon his eyes grew heavy, very heavy. The warmth of the fire and the sound of rain made him sleepy. Just before midnight, he noticed something strange. On the table beside the chair sat an old leather-bound diary. Dust covered the cover, yet one word was clearly visible. Written in faded silver letters. Visitors. Ethan frowned. Slowly he opened the diary. The first page contained hundreds of names. Different handwriting. Different dates. Different years. Every person who had stayed in the hut had apparently written their name. Curious, Ethan turned to the last page, and suddenly, his heart stopped. Written at the very bottom of the page was a name. Fresh ink, still wet. A name written only minutes ago. Ethan Parker. His own name. Outside. The rain grew heavier. Inside, the old clock struck midnight. Dong, dong, dong. And somewhere beyond the hut, deep within the dark forest, someone knocked on a door. Rain poured steadily over the forest. The sound echoed across the trees. Soft, rhythmic, endless. Inside the hut, Ethan sat frozen beside the fireplace. His name. It was written in the diary. Fresh ink, as though someone had written it only moments ago. But that was impossible. He had never been here before. At least, he thought he hadn't. The old clock continued ticking. Tick, tick, tick. Then, a sound came from outside. Knock. Ethan looked toward the door. His heart raced. The knock was soft, almost polite. Then it came again. Knock, knock. Outside the window, darkness covered the forest. Nothing could be seen beyond the rain. Slowly Ethan stood up. The hut suddenly felt colder. The fire seemed weaker. The shadows seemed longer. He approached the door carefully. The knocking stopped. Silence returned. Only the rain remained. Ethan opened the door. The cold night air rushed inside. Rain fell heavily. The forest stood silent, empty, no footprints, no lantern, no person, nobody was there. He stepped outside. The mud squished beneath his boots. His flashlight swept across the trees. Nothing. Then something caught his attention. Lying on the ground directly in front of the hut was a small brass key. Old, rusty, covered in rainwater. Ethan picked it up strangely. The key felt warm, as if someone had been holding it moments ago. Suddenly a flash of lightning illuminated the forest. For just a second, Ethan saw someone standing between the trees. Far away, watching him, a dark figure, motionless, silent. Then darkness returned. The figure disappeared. Ethan quickly rushed back inside and locked the door. His hands trembled. The old key remained in his palm. Warm, heavy, important, like it belonged somewhere. The fire crackled softly. The diary still lay open on the table. But now, there was something new written beneath his name. Words that hadn't been there before. Words appearing slowly by themselves. Letter by letter. As though an invisible hand was writing. Ethan stared in disbelief. The message finally completed itself. Find the lock. Room before sunrise. His blood ran cold. He turned the page. Only one sentence was written there. If the room opens itself first, never look inside. Thunder rumbled in the distance. The rain grew heavier. The hut groaned as wind pushed against its walls. Ethan looked around. A single-room hut. No locked room. No second door. No basement. Nothing. Or so he thought. Then he heard a faint sound, a creaking noise, coming from beneath the floorboards. Slowly, very slowly, something underneath the hut had just moved. Rain continued to fall over the forbidden forest. Soft, steady, endless. The sound drifted through the trees like a lullaby. Most people would have found it relaxing. But Ethan no longer felt relaxed. Not after what he had discovered. Not after seeing his own name written inside the diary before he had ever touched it. And certainly not after hearing something move beneath the floorboards. The hidden trapdoor stood open in the middle of the hut. Darkness waited below. Cold air slowly rose from the staircase. The kind of cold that didn't belong underground. The kind that felt old, ancient, as though it had been trapped there for centuries. Ethan held the brass key tightly. His flashlight trembled slightly in his hand. Outside, rain tapped softly against the roof. Inside, the old clock continued its endless ticking. Tick, tick, tick. The sound seemed louder now, more important somehow. Almost like a countdown. Taking a deep breath, Ethan stepped onto the staircase. The wooden steps creaked beneath his weight. One step, then another, then another. The warm glow of the fireplace slowly disappeared above him. Soon only darkness remained. The beam of his flashlight cut through the shadows. Ancient stone walls surrounded him. Roots from enormous trees pushed through cracks in the ceiling. Drops of water fell from above. Pling, pling, pling. Every sound echoed. Every movement felt watched. The staircase seemed impossibly long. Longer than the hut should have allowed. Longer than any basement. Ethan eventually reached the bottom and stepped into a narrow corridor. Dust floated through the air. Cobwebs stretched between stone pillars. The corridor looked abandoned. Yet strangely, it didn't feel empty. It felt occupied. As if unseen eyes followed his every movement. His flashlight revealed strange carvings covering the walls. Circles, trees, rain clouds, and hundreds of tiny symbols. The carvings seemed to tell a story repeated over and over again. A traveler, a hut, a forest, a door. The same images appeared everywhere. Again, and again, and again. Ethan continued forward. The corridor eventually ended at a massive wooden door. The wood looked black with age. Strange vines wrapped around its frame. And in the center sat a brass lock, exactly the same size as the key in Ethan's hand. His pulse quickened. This was it, the locked room. The room mentioned in the diary. Then he heard footsteps behind him. Slow, careful, measured. Step, step, step. The sound echoed through the corridor. Ethan spun around. His flashlight swept across the darkness. Nothing. No one. The corridor was empty, yet the footsteps had been real. He knew they had. For several seconds he stood completely still, listening, waiting. But only silence answered. Finally he turned back toward the door. The brass key felt warmer now, almost alive. Slowly he inserted it into the lock. The metal fit perfectly. A chill ran through his body. Above the doorway, hidden beneath layers of dust, he noticed words carved into the stone. He brushed away the dust carefully. The ancient sentence became visible. Only the remembered may enter. Ethan frowned. The words made no sense. Yet somehow they felt familiar, as though he had heard them before. Long ago, in a dream perhaps, thunder rumbled somewhere far above. Even down here, deep underground, he could still hear the storm. The forest, the rain, the endless rain. He turned the key. Click. The sound echoed throughout the corridor. The lock opened. Instantly the air changed. The temperature dropped. His breath became visible. The flashlight flickered. The darkness deepened. Something had awakened. Something had been waiting. The wooden door slowly opened by itself. Not with violence. Not with force. But with purpose. As though invisible hands were pulling it open. Ethan raised his flashlight. The beam entered the room. And his heart nearly stopped. Because there was no room. There was no chamber. No basement. No hidden storage area. Beyond the doorway stretched an entire forest. Another forest. A second world. Endless trees disappeared into thick fog. Rain fell from dark skies. Lantern lights glowed in the distance. The air smelled of wet earth and ancient wood. It looked exactly like the forest above, yet different, older, darker, wrong. Ethan stared in disbelief. His mind refused to understand what his eyes were seeing. The space beyond the doorway should have been impossible. Yet there it was. An entire forest hidden beneath another forest. He stepped closer. The rain from the strange world drifted through the doorway. Cold droplets landed on his skin. Real. Everything was real. Far away among the trees stood a hut. A wooden hut. Exactly like the one above. Same roof. Same lantern. Same chimney. Same shape. It was an exact copy. A sudden flash of lightning illuminated the strange forest. For a split second Ethan noticed something standing near the second hut. A figure. Tall. Motionless. Watching him. The lightning vanished. Darkness returned. The figure remained. Standing there. Waiting. Ethan swallowed nervously. The figure slowly began walking forward. Step, step, step. Rain fell around it, fog drifted through the trees. Yet Ethan couldn't make out its face. The closer it came, the colder the air became. His flashlight flickered violently. His heart pounded. The figure finally stepped into the light, and Ethan froze. The person standing before him was himself. Exactly himself. Same face. Same clothes. Same backpack. Same flashlight. Everything identical. Ethan stumbled backward. His breathing became uneven. The other Ethan simply stared. Expressionless. Silent. Rainwater dripped from his jacket. Neither of them spoke. Neither moved. The forest seemed to hold its breath. Even the rain sounded quieter. Finally the other Ethan smiled. A slow, unnatural smile. One that never reached his eyes. Then he spoke. In Ethan's own voice. You finally found the door. A chill shot through Ethan's body. Hearing his own voice coming from someone else felt wrong. Deeply wrong. Who are you? Ethan whispered. The other Ethan tilted his head slightly, almost confused by the question. I asked you the same thing. Almost confused by the question. I asked you the same thing once. The answer made no sense. Yet something about it terrified him. The stranger looked sad. Tired. Ancient. As though he had been standing there for years. Waiting. Rain continued falling. The forest remained silent. Then the stranger pointed toward the distant hut. Come inside. Ethan didn't move. Every instinct screamed at him to run. To leave. To close the door. To escape. The stranger smiled again. This time with genuine sadness. You still think you arrived here tonight? The words hung in the air. Heavy. Impossible. Ethan felt his stomach tighten. What do you mean? The stranger looked toward the rain. Toward the endless forest. Toward the darkness stretching beyond the trees. Then he quietly said, "You have been here before. Like lightning flashed across the strange sky. For a single second, memories exploded inside Ethan's mind. Fragments, images, dreams, rain, the hut, the diary, the door, again and again, as if he had lived this night many times. Too many times. Ethan staggered backward. His head spun. The memories vanished as quickly as they appeared, leaving only confusion behind. The stranger watched him carefully, then pointed toward the forest, far beyond the trees, far beyond the fog. A massive shadow moved in the darkness. Something enormous, larger than any tree, larger than the hut. Something ancient, something alive. The ground trembled slightly. The rain grew heavier. The shadow moved again, slowly, patiently, as though it had all the time in the world. The stranger's face suddenly filled with fear. Real fear. For the first time. It's waking up. Ethan felt cold, very cold. What is? The stranger looked directly into his eyes. And whispered the words that would change everything. The thing that built the hut. Thunder exploded across the sky. The shadow in the distance opened two enormous glowing eyes. And both Ethans realized it had been watching them the entire time. Rain poured endlessly across the hidden forest. The sound was everywhere, on the leaves, on the ancient trees, on the roof of the distant hut. and beneath it all, something enormous was moving. Ethan stood frozen at the doorway. His identical double stood beside him. Both stared into the darkness, far beyond the trees, far beyond the fog, where two gigantic glowing eyes had appeared, watching, waiting. The eyes were impossibly large, like lanterns hanging in the night, golden, ancient, patient. The creature didn't move, yet its presence filled the entire forest. Every tree seemed smaller. Every shadow seemed darker. Ethan's voice barely worked. "What is that?" His double didn't answer immediately. Instead, he watched the distant eyes with visible fear. The same fear Ethan himself felt, perhaps even more. Finally he spoke, quietly. "It doesn't have a name anymore." Thunder rumbled across the sky. The glowing eyes remained fixed on them. Long ago people called it the Keeper. The words echoed strangely through the rain. It existed before the forest. Lightning flashed. The creature's outline briefly became visible. Ethan wished it hadn't. Its body stretched through the darkness like a living mountain. Roots appeared to grow from its skin. Entire trees seemed attached to its back. Its shape constantly shifted, never staying the same for more than a second. Then darkness returned. Only the eyes remained. Ethan felt sick. Nothing that size should exist. Nothing that ancient should be alive. His double began walking toward the nearby hut. This time Ethan followed. He didn't know why. Perhaps because there was nowhere else to go. The rain softened as they approached. The second hut looked identical to the first, yet closer inspection revealed differences. Hundreds of names were carved into the walls. Thousands perhaps. Layer upon layer. Year after year. Generation after generation. Some names looked ancient. Others looked recent. Some had dates beside them. Others didn't. Then Ethan saw something that made his stomach drop. One name appeared dozens of times, repeated over and over. Ethan Parker. Again, and again, and again. The oldest carving looked decades old. The newest looked fresh, almost recent. What is this? Ethan whispered. His double stopped walking. Rainwater dripped from his jacket. Proof. Proof of what? The answer came immediately. That you've been here before. A cold wave passed through Ethan. No. His double nodded sadly. That's exactly what I said. The hut door opened. No one touched it. Inside, a fire burned quietly, just like the first hut. The same chair, the same table, the same clock. Tick, tick, tick. Ethan stared. Everything was identical. How is this possible? His double sat beside the fire. The orange light illuminated his face. He looked exhausted, like someone who hadn't slept in years. Then he finally explained. The rain hut isn't a place. Silence filled the room. It's a trap. The fire crackled softly. Rain tapped against the windows. Every traveler who enters the hut becomes part of the forest. Ethan felt his heartbeat quicken. What do you mean? The answer chilled him. The forest remembers people. Outside, lightning flashed. The distant eyes still watched. When someone enters the hut, the forest copies them. Ethan's mouth went dry. One version leaves. His double pointed at himself. One version stays. The room suddenly felt colder. No. Yes. The double looked away. I've been trapped here for a very long time. Ethan stared at him, trying to understand, trying to reject the impossible. How long? The answer came quietly. I don't know anymore. The fire flickered. Years. A pause. Maybe decades. Ethan's blood ran cold outside the hut. The massive The moment the ancient voice spoke, everything stopped. The rain, the wind, even time itself seemed frozen. The fire inside the hut vanished. Darkness swallowed the room. Only the two glowing eyes of the keeper remained visible beyond the window. Watching, waiting, knowing, Ethan stood motionless. His heart pounded violently. The words echoed inside his mind. He remembers again. That word terrified him more than anything else. Again. Not for the first time. Not for the second. But again. His double slowly lowered his head, almost as if he had expected this moment. It's too late. The room trembled. Dust fell from the ceiling. The old clock shattered. Glass exploded across the floor. Far beneath the hut, something enormous was opening. A deep grinding sound echoed through the forest. Stone against stone. Ancient machinery awakening after centuries of silence. The keeper's eyes brightened. Golden light spread through the trees. Fog rolled away, and for the first time, Ethan saw the true size of the hidden world. His breath stopped. The forest wasn't endless. It was circular, like a giant prison. Mountains surrounded the entire landscape. Impossible mountains, stretching beyond the clouds. And in the center of everything stood a colossal black door. A door larger than a city. Ancient symbols covered its surface. Roots thicker than highways wrapped around it, chains stretched across it like spiderwebs. Yet the chains were breaking, one by one. Crack. Another chain snapped. The sound shook the world. Crack. Another followed. Ethan could barely speak. What is that? His double stared at the massive door. Fear filled his eyes. That's where the keeper came from. Lightning flashed across the sky. And that's where it's trying to return. The ground shook again. The black door slowly opened a few inches. Darkness leaked from inside. Not ordinary darkness. Something alive. Something moving. Ethan felt dizzy. The darkness seemed to stare back at him. Then memories flooded his mind. Not one memory. Thousands. He saw himself entering the hut. Again, and again, and again. Different years. Different clothes. Different lives. One version was old. One was young. One had a beard. One carried a lantern. One carried a map, yet all of them were Ethan. Every version eventually found the hidden door. Every version met the keeper. Every version failed. The visions came faster. Hundreds. Thousands. Millions. Each Ethan trapped inside the forest. Each Ethan trying to escape. Each Ethan forgetting. Then remembering. Then forgetting again. Ethan fell to his knees. His head felt like it would explode. No, but deep inside, he knew the memories were real. The double knelt beside him. Now you understand. Rain began falling again. Soft, gentle, almost sad. The forest isn't trapping people. A long silence followed. The forest is trapping one person. Ethan looked up. What? The answer changed everything. You. The room fell silent. The double continued. Every traveler. A pause. Every visitor. Another pause. Every name in the diary. He pointed toward Ethan. They're all you. A chill swept through the hut. Different lives. Different timelines. Different versions. Yet somehow, all the same person. The keeper had been collecting him for centuries. The realization was horrifying. The forest wasn't random. The hut wasn't random. Nothing was random. Everything had been built around him. Outside, another chain broke. Crack. The gigantic door opened wider. Darkness poured into the sky. Stars disappeared. The moon vanished. Even the rain seemed afraid. The keeper slowly rose. For the first time, its full body became visible. It towered above mountains. Its body was covered with forests. Rivers flowed across its skin. Entire landscapes grew upon its back. It wasn't merely a creature. It was a world. And now it was awake. The keeper's voice entered Ethan's mind once more. The last memory has returned. The hidden forest trembled. The cycle ends tonight. The double suddenly grabbed Ethan's shoulder. His expression had changed. Urgent. Desperate. Listen carefully. The floor continued shaking. Every version before us failed. The door outside opened wider. But they left something behind. The double pulled an old object from his pocket. A silver compass. Ancient. Worn. Covered in strange symbols. Ethan immediately recognized it. It appeared in several memories. Several versions of himself had carried it. The double placed it into Ethan's hand. This is the only thing the keeper fears. The compass needle spun wildly, then pointed directly toward the giant black door. A strange blue light began glowing inside it. The keeper roared. The sound shattered trees. The ground cracked open. The sky turned black. For the first time, the ancient creature seemed afraid. The double smiled. A tired smile. Now I finally remember why I stayed. Ethan stared at him. What do you mean? The answer came softly. I stayed here to help the version who would finally win. Outside, the giant door fully opened. Something inside moved. Something far older than the keeper. And both Ethans realized the keeper had never been the real danger. It had been guarding something. Something waiting on the other side of the door. something finally coming out. The giant black door stood fully open. Rain poured from the sky. Thunder rolled across the hidden forest. And beyond the doorway, something was coming. The keeper had stopped moving. The enormous creature that had terrified Ethan from the beginning now seemed frozen. Afraid, watching the darkness inside the door. That was impossible. The keeper was ancient, powerful, a living world. Yet now it looked small. The silver compass in Ethan's hand glowed brighter. Blue light spread across its surface. Ancient symbols slowly appeared around its edge. Symbols that hadn't been there before. The other Ethan stared at it. A faint smile appeared on his face. It's finally awake. The ground shook violently. Trees cracked. Mountains trembled. The hidden forest seemed to be breaking apart. Then, a hand emerged from the darkness. Not a giant hand, not a monster's claw, a human hand, perfectly normal, pale, silent, still. It slowly reached beyond the doorway, followed by an arm, a shoulder, a face. Ethan stared, confused, terrified. Because the figure stepping from the darkness looked exactly like him. Again, another Ethan, but different. This one wore black clothing. His eyes glowed silver. Rain never touched him. The drops simply vanished before reaching his skin. And unlike the others, he smiled. Not kindly, not sadly. Dangerously. The air became heavy. Every sound disappeared. Even the rain seemed afraid to fall near him. The dark Ethan slowly looked around the forest, then at the keeper, then at Ethan. Finally he spoke. After all these years, his voice echoed across the entire world. You finally opened the door. Lightning exploded overhead. The keeper lowered its head, almost like a servant, almost like it was obeying him. Ethan felt cold, very cold. Who are you? The stranger laughed softly. I'm the first one. Silence. The words meant nothing. Yet somehow Ethan understood. The first traveler. The first version. The original. The one who entered the rain hut before anyone else. Thousands of years ago, the dark Ethan slowly walked forward. The forest was created for me. The hidden world trembled. The keeper was created for me. Mountains cracked, and every version after me. His silver eyes fixed on Ethan, was created to replace me. The truth hit like a hammer. Every Ethan, every timeline, every memory, every visitor. They weren't prisoners. They were copies, attempts, failures. The forest had been searching for one perfect version. One version strong enough to break the cycle. One version strong enough to open the black door. And Ethan had done exactly that. The dark Ethan smiled wider. Thank you. The compass suddenly became hot. Painfully hot. Blue light exploded from its surface. The stranger's smile vanished. For the first time, he looked surprised. The other Ethan stepped forward. Now, the compass floated into the air. A brilliant blue beam shot into the sky. Every carved symbol throughout the forest began glowing. Trees, mountains, lanterns, the hut, everything. The hidden world awakened. The dark Ethan's expression changed. Fear. Real fear. No. The compass wasn't a key. It wasn't a weapon. It was a lock. The thing keeping the black door sealed. The thing every previous Ethan had protected. The thing Ethan was meant to find. Blue chains erupted from the ground. Thousands of them. They wrapped around the black doorway. Around the darkness. Around the first Ethan. The forest roared. The sky flashed. Rain fell harder than ever before. The dark Ethan struggled. You don't understand. The chains tighten. I'm the reason you exist. More chains appear. Without me, none of you survive. The mountains shook. The forest cracked. The hidden world began collapsing. The other Ethan smiled. For the first time. A peaceful smile. Maybe. Rain fell softly around him. But every story has to end someday. The chains dragged the first Ethan back toward the black door. The darkness pulled him inward. His silver eyes remained locked on Ethan, filled with rage, filled. The darkness pulled him inward. His silver eyes remained locked on Ethan, filled with rage, filled with hatred, filled with fear. Then he vanished. The black door slammed shut. Boom. Silence. Complete silence. The keeper released a long breath. The giant creature slowly closed its glowing eyes and began turning to stone, tree by tree, mountain by mountain. Its body became part of the landscape. At peace. Finally, the hidden forest started fading. Fog disappeared. Rain softened. The world grew lighter. The other Ethan looked toward him. You did it. Ethan smiled weakly. We did it. The other Ethan nodded. Then his body slowly became transparent, like mist, like rain, like a memory, before disappearing completely. He spoke one final sentence. Tomorrow belongs to you now. And then, he was gone. The hidden forest vanished. The mountains vanished. The black door vanished. Everything disappeared into white light. Ethan closed his eyes, and when he opened them, he was back inside the original rain hut. Morning sunlight streamed through the window. Birds sang outside. The storm was gone. Only one thing remained on the table. The old diary. Its final page contained a single sentence. The cycle is over. Ethan smiled, closed the diary and stepped outside into the warm morning sun. The last rain. 3 years passed. The forbidden forest became a story, a legend, a mystery told around campfires. Most people believed it was only a myth. Ethan never corrected them, because some truths were too strange to explain. His life slowly returned to normal. He moved to a quiet town, bought a small cabin near a lake, and for the first time in years, he slept peacefully. No strange dreams, no hidden forests, no glowing eyes watching from the darkness. The nightmare was over. Or so he believed. One autumn evening, rain began falling. Soft, gentle, familiar. Ethan sat beside his window reading a book. A cup of tea rested on the table. Everything felt calm, safe, normal. Then he heard something. A sound he hadn't heard in 3 years. Knock, knock, knock. His heart stopped. The sound came from his front door. For several seconds he didn't move. The rain continued outside. The knocking came again. Knock, knock, knock. Slowly Ethan stood. Every old memory returned instantly. The hut, the forest, the keeper, the black door. His hands trembled as he approached the entrance. The door opened. Nobody stood outside. Only rain, fog, and silence. Just like that night long ago. Ethan looked down. Something rested on the wooden porch. A small package, wrapped in old brown paper. His name was written across it. No address. No sender. Only one word beneath his name. Remember. A chill passed through him. Slowly he carried the package inside. Rainwater dripped from its surface. The paper looked ancient, older than it should have been. Carefully he opened it. Inside was a single object. The silver compass. The same compass. impossible. He had watched it disappear when the hidden world collapsed. Yet here it was. The blue symbol still covered its surface. The metal still felt warm, alive. For a long time Ethan simply stared. Then, the compass needle moved. Once, twice, 3 times, and stopped, pointing north, not toward the forest, not toward the mountains, not toward any place Ethan knew, just north. The compass suddenly opened. A hidden compartment clicked open inside it. Something fell onto the table. A tiny folded note. Ethan unfolded it. His pulse quickened. The handwriting was familiar. His own handwriting. The note contained only one sentence. The first door is closed. The second door is waiting. Silence filled the room. Outside, the rain continued falling softly. Ethan slowly walked toward the window. Far away across the lake, he noticed something. A light, a single golden light, floating among the trees. Warm, still, watching, exactly like the light that had guided him to the rain hut years ago. His heart raced. The light remained motionless, waiting, inviting, calling. Then something impossible happened. The compass needle suddenly spun wildly. Faster, faster, faster. Until it finally stopped, pointing directly toward the mysterious light. Ethan closed his eyes. A normal person would ignore it, stay home, forget the past, forget the forest, forget the rain. But Ethan knew better. Some mysteries don't end. They only sleep. And somewhere in the darkness, another story was beginning. He grabbed his coat, picked up the compass, and stepped into the rain. Far away among the trees, the golden light slowly moved deeper into the night, waiting for him to follow. And high above the clouds, for just a single second, two enormous golden eyes open, watching, not with anger, not with fear, but with curiosity. Then they vanished. The rain continued falling, soft, gentle, endless. The end. Oh, are the beginning.